Teddy, before we get into retirements that are happening all over the place, some injury information that broke late last night with the Portland Trail Blazers. Yusuf Nurkic goes down, and if anybody saw the injury live, if you saw the replays, once was plenty enough in this one, Teddy. That's a big injury in the West, because as we look right now, Teddy, 40-1 to win the West for the Trail Blazers and 60-1 to win the title.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to put too much into one injury, but that injury ended Portland's season. I mean, it flat out did. And yes, I was watching it live. I had to play on the Blazers last night. They had a chance to cover in double OT. Didn't get there, unfortunately. But, I mean, that injury, remember, C.J. McCollum's already hurt. And while his injury isn't long-term, the Nurkic injury is. And he's an absolute impact player for the Blazers. Their season ended last night, and they know it. And the locker room was dead after the game. There may be good opportunities to fade Portland following this injury, both here in the regular season and potentially in the postseason as well.
Yeah, too nasty injury, Ted. I mean, we saw it there with Paul George, who was trying out for, I guess, the team USA basketball team right there in Las Vegas. And then you also had the injury with Gordon Hayward last year. It takes a long time. And we're talking about previous before with Paul George and Gordon Hayward, guys that are guards, small forwards. Now you're looking at a center there. Tough injury for Portland moving forward here. We keep an eye on it to see what happens in the playoffs coming down. Teddy, just because we don't have NCAA basketball, we're taking a little bit of a breather the next couple of days here. What a perfect time for retirements. But as we see two big retirements in different sports, one in MMA, one in the NFL, Rob Gronkowski hangs it up after a 9-year career in the NFL on his way to the Hall of Fame. Conor McGregor, who's done this before, and boxers and MMA guys do this all the time, saying he's hanging it up as well. In both of these instances, Teddy, do I smell an agent in there looking to get his foot in the door for a better deal somewhere?
Maybe not, because both of these guys have enough of a following to move on to other projects without putting their health at risk every single week or every single fight with McGregor. I mean, Gronk has, they're talking about him as a senator or his career in show business. He has other things he can do besides football, and he's made a whole lot of money playing football. All that being said, this is a big deal for the Patriots. Gronkowski has been the biggest playmaker in that offense for the better part of the last decade. Tom Brady's going to miss his safety valve. When it comes to McGregor, I'm sorry, we all know what's going to happen. McGregor's going to come back. This is not the end of Conor McGregor. He'll come out of retirement and fight however many times. That's what boxers do. That's what fighters do. When the payday's there, they find a way to get back into shape. All that being said, I'm sorry to see McGregor go. McGregor-Mayweather fight is one for the ages, one that I will always remember because I was in a room with so much money. I've never been in a room with more money on one guy in a fight. It was a lot of fun that night, and to see McGregor go down was something that I enjoyed. We'll miss him, but he'll be back.
Teddy, Drew Rosenhaus said, don't take too much into this now. Guys change their minds all the time. We are betting people here, especially on That Betting Show. If we took a look at both of these guys, I think it's pretty simple to say McGregor's probably more likely to come back, but we set an odds on there. I think Gronkowski's going to hang it up. I think he has a bright future, whether it be in the WWE, whether it be in movies or game shows or whatever it would be. Conor McGregor, on the other hand, I think he's going to use this as a way to wedge in, because if you have the upper hand like McGregor does, I believe, over the UFC, you use it to more shoehorn in there. But when I say this, it can't, minus 1,000 that McGregor comes back, Teddy? Got to be the favorite that he returns somewhere, whether it be boxing or MMA, right?
Sure. I mean, McGregor's chalk. I don't know if it's minus 1,000, but on the other hand, are you going to take the other side? One would expect that Conor McGregor will be involved in some type of a physical altercation in a ring at some point down the road. As for Gronk, the guy's been paid. The guy's got plenty of other opportunities. He doesn't need to play football. I'm not saying Gronk to return has to be a dog. And of course the agent wants him to stick around. The agent's getting paid when he gets paid. Yeah, he might come back, Rosenhaus says. Of course he does. That's his job to say, my guy might come back, to keep him visible, even though he's not likely to be playing for the Patriots in 2019.
Wild night in the NBA last night, Teddy. It seems like, most, and I don't even know if the NBA players and the coaches and the front office are in the same mode I am. Just can we get to the playoffs so we get to some meaningful games? The Sixers go down to Orlando. Ben Simmons gets the sniffles. The line moves from, opening at Sixers -3 to -2 to the Magic. And the Magic absolutely slay the Philadelphia 76ers last night. Another game last night, OKC taking on the Grizzlies. OKC opens up at 5.5, goes to 7.5. They get trounced. I need some NBA playoffs, Teddy. I need to see these teams care again here.
Yeah, it's still a couple of weeks away. So you might need them, but they ain't coming yet. Most teams still 8 or 9 games remaining in the regular season. We'll get there, but unfortunately, from a who's going to make the playoff standpoint, there's not all that much drama in the NBA this season. The books got really burned on the Philadelphia-Orlando game. As you mentioned, heavy Magic money, and the Magic, an impressive homestand. They've kept themselves alive in the playoff chase and have a real good opportunity to make it even closer if they can win in Miami tonight. They've been taking money in early betting action. The Grizzlies, they don't have Mike Conley last night. It doesn't matter. The Thunder are just not playing good basketball right now. And it was very clear. They took a ton of money last night. The books cleaned up in that ball game. And of course, let's not forget Trevor Booker, the first player in NBA history to score 50-plus points in a game where his team lost by 30. Trevor, congrats. You got a little, had a big shooting night. But the Phoenix Suns right now just aren't giving a whole lot of competitive effort, certainly not on the highway against good defensive teams like Utah.
Yeah, we've talked about the Portland Trailblazers, obviously, with the Nurkic injury going down in overtime. 148-144 final, -6. -6, Teddy, actually had a shot there in the overtime, didn't it?
Yeah, in the second overtime. I was live, and then Nurkic got hurt, and that was the end of that. I would have loved to have stole that one last night. Unfortunately, we didn't. The Nets were the right side. They got the money.
Teddy, MLB first look here today. The best part about it is we're heading towards opening day. It's on Thursday. So what's that mean? Me and Teddy doing double headers today, baby. Let's take a look first. Arizona Diamondbacks 82-80 in 2018. The Diamondbacks currently sitting, Teddy, 66-1 on a ticket to win the 2019 World Series. Now, 82 games winning last year, 75.5 is set for this year as their team total. A.J. Pollock, Paul Goldschmidt, Patrick Corbin out. But they do have some capable pieces here, Teddy, to try to fill in. David Peralta, Ketel Marte, Steven Souza are going to line the outfield. Wilmer Flores comes over from the New York Mets. We'll see what takes place. Also losing Corbin at the top of that rotation. Zach Greinke still the ace there. Robbie Ray, Godley, Weaver, and Kelly rounded out. And they do have a decent back end of the bullpen to set it up with Bradley and Hirano. Is the team as capable as it was last year? Probably not. You would like to see them reload with Goldschmidt, with Pollock, but just not in the cards there for a team that's trying to be financially sound in the NL West, which those teams are ramping. I mean, look at the Padres are even spending money. What are we taking a look at here in 2019 for those Diamondbacks, Teddy?
Well, look, you trade away Paul Goldschmidt, let him go, which is, he's a franchise icon. He's a perennial MVP candidate. He is the face of the franchise. Bye-bye, Goldschmidt. Patrick Corbin, bye-bye. A.J. Pollock, bye-bye. Is that the 3 best players on the team? Mm-hmm. So you say, all right, well, we got rid of the 3 best players on the team, but we're not rebuilding. Okay. And look, it's not a hopeless roster, which makes me think that if things go bad for Arizona, they'll be trading at the dealers at the deadline. When you have Zach Greinke and Robbie Ray and Zach Godley as your 1, 2, 3 starters, you're going to get people out. That's a good trio. You talked about the bullpen that you're like, I'm with you. It's not a hopeless bullpen whatsoever. And, Archie Bradley, great pickup, Greg Holland to close. There are things to like about Arizona's pitching staff. The lineup, I don't know they're going to score a whole lot of runs. And in this division, you better be scoring runs. And Arizona, a team that was mildly profitable a year ago, a team that certainly, played for extended stretches of the season. It's a pretty good team. They're a sub-500 squad this year. The markets know it already. And with the pitching staff they have, with Greinke, Ray, and Godley at the top of the order, top of the rotation, I should say, they're going to be priced fairly expensively in a handful of games, which makes me think D-backs, not necessarily a team I'm in love with, unless they get some good starts out of their 4th and 5th starters, which is very possible. There's some nice prospects lurking in that potential rotation.
Hey, Ted, this brings up a pretty good point there that you raised. If we take a look at the Diamondbacks total of 75.5, and we're a team that's, look, they're not going for it, obviously, moved around some key pieces, and they're saying to their fans in their front office, let's sort of see what happens. Usually, to me, that's a white flag being raised. If you're taking a look at betting a season total over, this team, to me, Teddy, more likely, as you said, to trade at the deadline than re-up and re-amp up at the deadline. Going into betting team totals, does that factor in immediately right away off the bat? We say, look, 75.5. If this team's not competitive, we might just raise the flag and fire sale and really drop down in August and September. How's that look for you when betting team totals?
That's exactly the point. And whenever I'm looking at MLB team totals, I'm going in with an assessment. This team's a buyer at the deadline, or this team's a seller at the deadline. Now, if I don't have that assessment, I probably don't bet the team total. But for Arizona, the first thought process is that this team's more likely to be selling at the deadline, which makes me very reluctant to get involved with an Arizona Diamondbacks wager over their 75.5 wins.
Back end of the doubleheader today, Teddy. Those Colorado Rockies in the thin air of Coors Field in 2018 posted a 91-72 record coming into the season. Teddy, 25-1 to win the 2019 World Series. Rockies win total set at 84. Locked up Nolan Arenado to a long-term mega deal. Daniel Murphy comes over to play first base. Obviously, this lineup is built to hit at Coors Field. They always do that. Crazy scores. We've seen it time and time again. The one thing that you sort of try to give hope to is their pitchers usually, or hopefully usually, can handle that thin air of Coors Field. Take a look at Freeman, Marquez, Sensatella, Anderson, and Gray. Hope to be up to the task. Wade Davis, who had 43 saves in 2018, looks to lock down the late innings. This team is fun. Now, Teddy, personally, gambling-wise, I haven't bet very many games in Coors Field just because of 7-4 leads, 7-2 leads, 7-3 leads evaporate in late innings. Always a tough team for me to cap, Teddy, with those Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, a 91 win team last year lines as an 84 win team this season. And there was a lot of things that, broke out really well for the Rockies last year. The best road record in club history, 44-38 on the highway. They made a bunch of money for their backers away from home. They struggled early at Coors. They closed out. They had like an 8-game home losing streak. After that home losing streak, they go 36-14 at home at Coors down the stretch. The best winning percentage in the NL at home. So they did well on the road. They did well at home. I don't know if that carries over to 2019. You talk about some of the bats. Obviously, you bring, you sign Arenado. He's been paid now. Elite. Trevor Story last year at shortstop. He led the major league, led the National League in extra base hits. 40 doubles, 30 dingers, 25 stolen bases. He was a monster a year ago. Became the third shortstop to do that. Last guy, Ernie Banks. Before that, Honus Wagner. So, impressive stuff from Story. I got a lot of questions about this pitching staff. John Gray, who was brilliant when he was good, but in his 9 losses, an ERA of 11 and 10 no decisions, he had an ERA of 5.6. He had his moments, but he wasn't stellar. Can Freeland, Ken Marquez, Ken Anderson, Ken Senzatella live up to some of the promise they showed last year? If they can, Rocky's probably going to be decent again. If they can't, this team's going to take a tumble, and Colorado's likely to be a sub-500 squad, and once again, money losers for their backers.